What's up, guys? Welcome back to Three Bro Sports. We're minus our third member, TJ, but nonetheless, we're going to go over pre-draft, NFL, QB rankings, and tier lists. So before we start, we have, we have 7 tier rankings, but some of the players, like the younger quarterbacks, they might be lower in the tiers and rankings, but that's just because they're unproven.
There's three quarterbacks, possibly 4. Jarrett Stidham, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock, and maybe you could say Gardner Minshew. They're all they didn't play X amount of games to really be proven.
I could say you could throw Haskins in there maybe.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, Dev, you want to start us off here at 32?
Yeah.
This is in our backup-worthy tier list.
Yeah, this is backup worthy. So the worst quarterback in the NFL, 32nd, is Andy Dalton. Clearly, Andy Dalton is not going to be the starting quarterback next year, no matter what. I mean, the only way is if the rookie they draft is pretty much injured. He shouldn't have been the starting quarterback last year. He's not really starter worthy anymore. So that's pretty self-explanatory. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like you said, he's not going to be the starter next year. We all know that's going to be Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much to say there.
Okay.
31, Jarrett Stidham. He's one of the unproven quarterbacks, like we said. I'm not sure. Has he started a game in his career?
No.
Yeah.
He also has not, when he's been in, he hasn't really shown a lot of promise. He threw a pick 6 against the Jets.
Yeah, so he's really unproven. We don't really know what he's going to be. No one's expecting him to be great or anything special.
He might not even be able to be a starter because he wasn't drafted to be a franchise quarterback. He was drafted to be a backup in the first place.
There's a chance that the Patriots even take a quarterback first round. It wouldn't even be a surprise.
Yeah. The 30th quarterback on the list is Tyrod Taylor. We all know what Tyrod Taylor brings to the table. He's a mobile, athletic. His accuracy is mostly – he has a lot of problems with his accuracy. You've seen that throughout his career. He couldn't hit, all the good throws. But nonetheless, he's a really athletic quarterback that can get you some wins. He'll, make, the smart plays and, get you a first down every once in a while. But he's not going to, be this great, franchise quarterback. He's more of a backup in this league now, in my opinion. That's why we have him in this tier. But he's done it okay in his career, so that's my take on it.
Yeah, a few years ago when he was with the Bills, I'm pretty sure he led them to the playoffs, but you can't really expect that type of play again out of him. The Chargers most likely going to be taking the quarterback first round. Be a pretty big surprise if they don't, but I wouldn't expect too much out of him if he's the starter.
Yeah.
So moving on, that's the end of the backup-worthy tier list. Moving into the below-average tier list, number 29, Dwayne Haskins. Last year with the Redskins, his rookie year, it wasn't too productive, but you also have to consider that he doesn't have many weapons around him. He has Terry McLaurin, but besides him, there's not much. He doesn't have a lot. Jordan Reed's always injured. So I think that if the Redskins get a few pieces around him, he could be a good quarterback, but I'd never see him being a great quarterback in this league. It is early in his career though, so
I think it's way too early to tell. I think that his potential, definitely, if he cleans up a few things. He only played a few games. He threw 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, so it's way too early for me to say if he's going to be, great or, a complete bust or, but I feel like he could, if I'd have to say right now what he would be, I think he could be a franchise QB at best, but who knows what he could be. He could be great. You just don't know. But I agree with Kate on everything that he said. The production, it was just average, but he doesn't have weapons. So if you get him a few weapons, I feel like he could, he could develop into a decent quarterback with decent stats.
Yep.
28, we have Ryan Fitzpatrick. If you watch the NFL, you know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He's a journeyman quarterback that played for a whole bunch of different teams. every once in a while he'll give you a game where he'll throw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns and play amazing, and then the next he'll throw 3 picks and no touchdowns. So he's just a guy I mean, you can throw him in the backup tier too. He played pretty well for the Dolphins last year. Actually got him quite a few wins. That's why we put him in this tier. But he could also be he's going to be a backup quarterback next year. But I felt like he played pretty decent last year.
Yeah, like you said, Devin, he's a journeyman. He's been bouncing around. He's bounced around the league for a few years. You can't expect him to go out there and put up consistent numbers on a weekly basis. Like you said, he could go out one week, look like a star, and then the next week just look like a total bum. So that's about it with him. Moving on to 27, we got Drew Lock. He didn't play too much last year. He played 5 games, but honestly, he showed a lot of potential last year. He looked like a franchise quarterback possibly from the few games that he played last year. Throwing the ball to Courtland Sutton. If they get him another weapon in the draft one of the receivers possibly, I think he could have a very good year.
Yeah, I think he's unproven, just like Haskins and Stidham. He's only played a few games, and in those games, he looks pretty good. I mean, I think he had 7 touchdowns, like 2 or 3 interceptions, which is pretty good. I mean, that's pretty much what you expect out of a rookie quarterback. So, I mean, and he was drafted, I'm almost positive in the 2nd round he was drafted. So, I mean, that's good. And especially like Cade said, if they drafted another receiver and get him some more weapons, he could probably be a decent quarterback, but he could also be a bust. We don't know. He just hasn't played enough games for us to tell.
Yep, I agree.
Next one is Nick Foles. Everyone pretty much knows who Nick Foles is. Nick Foles is a system quarterback. If he doesn't play for the right system, he's not going to be a good quarterback. Early on in his career, he never worked out with the Rams. He didn't work out with the Eagles the first time. And he didn't work out with the Jacksonville Jaguars the last time he was there. He did work out with the Eagles when Matt Nagy was there, though. And that is a big deal because Matt Nagy plays for or he's the coach for the Bears now. So, I mean, that's a big deal. When he played for the Eagles that year when they won it in 2017, if you watched the Super Bowl and the playoffs, you knew that he was a good quarterback in the system. And I thought that he looked better than Carson Wentz with that team, with that certain way they're running the offense. So I feel like if it's with the right fit, I feel like he could be a pretty decent quarterback.
Yeah, we're assuming that he's going to be the starter over Trubisky here. I think that a lot of people can agree on that.
Based off of Trubisky's play last year.
Yeah, and like you said, he's a system quarterback. He's really only had one really good season in his career, and that was with the Eagles under that offense. So we'll see what happens in Chicago. I mean, he's going to be throwing the ball to Allen Robinson. But other than him, I'm not sure how many weapons they have for him. So we'll see what that system's like. I could see him being at best an average quarterback next year.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the below average quarterbacks. Moving into the average quarterbacks, we have Gardner Minshew. Minshew mania. Last year, he showed potential in some games with the Jaguars when Foles was hurt. But at times, he was also kind of looked like Fitzpatrick, like we said. He could go out and have a really great game, and then the next game not look too hot. So we'll see next year if he can have a little bit more consistent play. He is one of the unproven quarterbacks, like we said.
Yeah, his stat sheet looked pretty good with 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Isn't too bad. That's actually pretty good. Part of his problems with his game is he's a little bit too careless with the ball. He doesn't really know when to get rid of it. Like Cade said, one play he'll make a crazy play where he'll elude a sack and hold on to it for a long time, and a receiver will get open. But then he's got to know when to get rid of it sometimes too, and that's where I feel like he makes a lot of dumb interceptions or takes a sack where he's not supposed to be taking a sack. So if he learns and gets the great coaching, I feel like he could be a good quarterback too.
Yep.
24 is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, he came into the league really hot. He's a really cocky quarterback, thinks that, he's just really – I feel like I don't know. He had like the classic sophomore slump for a quarterback. First year excelled. He didn't really play too many hot teams, and then the next year, everyone was predicting him to have this huge year, and he didn't. He didn't have a good year. I don't really think that their offense is going to run well. Number one, I don't think their coach is very good, and I also don't think it's a good fit to have that many stars on one offense just based off of last year how it worked out. So, if they figure it out, Baker Mayfield, he's a great quarterback, but based off of last year, that's why he's in this tier.
Yeah, last year Mayfield, he really let me down. I was looking for an improvement from his rookie season. He
Or at
almost
least,
had
at least a steady, like, no, to stay the same, like not decrease from your rookie season.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, he almost had a 1-to-1 passing touchdown to interception ratio.
And he didn't have a
His,
lot of touchdowns either.
his passing rating declined by 14.6 points from his rookie year, but he has the weapons around him, so there's not really an excuse there. They could beef up the line. They brought in Hooper. He's a great running back, so
Yeah, there's not too much.
yeah, you can't really make too many excuses for him.
I mean, the coaching is definitely there's
For
definitely
sure, yeah.
but based
I
off
think
of
he
just
could
quarterback play,
benefit from a better coordinator and head
yeah,
coach.
a better offensive minded coach.
Yeah.
In general.
Moving on, number 23, Daniel Jones. Last year, a lot of people didn't think he was going to be picked as high as he was, so there was a lot of busts. A lot of people thought he could be a bust, but he actually had a decent season last year. He threw for 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. One problem with him is his fumbling. He had 11 fumbles lost last year, so, I mean, that's one thing that is a problem with the Giants in general, their offensive line. They need to be able to protect him. They need to get some more weapons around him too. So I think if they build the line, he can just keep improving and improving. I think he can be a really good quarterback.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones, I think his ceiling is sort of low for me. I wasn't too high on Daniel Jones. I think that he can be an average quarterback at best. Like I feel like he can be a decent quarterback. He can be a franchise quarterback, but to me, I just don't think his ceiling's too high. I don't think that his intangibles are where it needs to be a star in the league. I just feel like he's not. I mean, if he's smart and he's good decision making, that goes a long way as well. But nonetheless, he had a pretty decent year. Nothing like too amazing, but he did good with what he was given. So he could, definitely become like a good franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I think that until the Giants get him a line, I don't think he'll ever be putting up great numbers.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Next one is Sam Darnold. A lot of people, I'm sure, that are watching this video that are Browns fans and certain other fans are gonna have a problem with Darnold in front of Baker. But the reason I put Darnold in front of Baker is he's done better in the 2 seasons combined stat-wise than what Baker has done, especially with what Baker has had. He had Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Odell Beckham Jr., and Sam Darnold has been giving nothing. One of the worst lines, no receiving core, and he's done a decent job. He's got to give him credit for that. He hasn't, done really good, but he's kept his team afloat. And when he played, he actually got quite a few wins for the Jets. So I am on board with Sam Darnold. I've always liked Sam Darnold since he's been drafted. I was on board drafting him like when the Jets drafted him. So I still have faith in him, and especially if they get him a receiver in this draft class.
Yeah, like you said, Devin, he was thrown into nothing. Like he's never had great receivers. He's never had a good line.
Or even the defense.
Yeah. So the production that he's had is actually pretty decent for considering what's around him.
Yeah.
So if they get him a few more weapons, build up the line, I think he could be a really, really good quarterback in this league.
Me too.
Moving on to 21, we have Phillip Rivers. Rivers, he's a veteran. He's been in the league for a while. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to throw for a lot of yards in a year, but then at the same time, he's also going to be throwing a lot of picks. So that's one of his problems. Last year, he had 23 passing touchdowns, but he also had 20 interceptions. So with his new team, the Colts, he's a really good offensive line now, one of the best he's had in a long time. So I think that'll really help him. He's going to be throwing a T.Y. Hilton. So I think that he could have a little bit of a bounce back year from last year.
Yeah, I could see that. That's one possibility. Like Cade said, he pretty much said it the way it needed to be said. He's been a pretty good quarterback in his career. Philip Rivers is, he always puts up pretty good yards, pretty good touchdown quality. But like you said, he does throw quite a bit of interceptions and turns it over. For me, I don't see a bounce back season out of Philip Rivers. Going from an offense with Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler, a great receiving back, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry. Obviously, he was injured, but just that offense in general. I mean, like Cade added, they do have a good line. Like that's huge when it comes to being a quarterback. But their weapons aren't very good. The Colts do not have a lot of weapons. That's just a fact. And I just don't. I don't know. I could be a fit, but for me, I don't really see it. But nonetheless, he's been a pretty decent quarterback in the league, and I feel like he should be in the tier that we have him in. Number 20, I feel like Teddy Bridgewater. He's at me and Cade. We're kind of like back and forth on this. He's at the verge of above average and average. We put him in average just because he hasn't really played a full season in a while on a team. And like last year, he had a really good year. He got the job done. He went 5-1 as a starter for the Saints. Stat-wise, he didn't really put up a lot of big numbers. He didn't throw for a lot of yards every game. But he got the job done, and that's really what matters in this league. Get the job done and win football games. So I feel like Teddy Bridgewater, he could be a serviceable quarterback in the league and be a good franchise quarterback with the right weapons and the right scheme.
Yeah, like you said, last year, but he did his job with the Saints. He won them football games. He didn't. Now, how much of that is his credit? He had a really good team around him. But nonetheless, he got it done. Went 5-1. He wasn't putting up the big stats, but what can you say? I mean, if you're winning football games in this league, that's all that matters.
I agree.
Moving on, this is the above average tier list. Number 19, Derek Carr. Derek Carr, he's been with the Raiders for a while. They brought in Mariota now. I don't think he'll give him much of a challenge at winning the starting job. But you know what you're going to get out of Carr. I don't think that they really have the weapons around him right now. I think that they definitely need to draft a wide receiver if they want Carr to grow as a quarterback. And I think with a Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb type of player, he can be a better quarterback than what he is now. But I don't see him ever being like his ceiling isn't super high for me.
Yeah. For me, it's sort of like a Sam Darnold situation. Now, am I saying that Derek Carr, his ceiling is as high as Sam Darnold? No, he's not young, and he doesn't have the same arm talent as like Sam Darnold. But it's not really fair to critique Derek Carr when he has really never had a number one receiver. I mean, he did have Amari Cooper that first year that he had a really good year, and Michael Crabtree at the end of his career. But he's never really had that number one like top tier wide receiver play. And I feel like if he got that, he could be a really good quarterback. I mean, last year put up pretty good stats, and he won him some football games, and which is, I mean, pretty good with what the team he was given. So I think if they definitely improve, give him a few more receivers or, offensive linemen, he could definitely be a good quarterback and franchise, win some games and get him to the playoffs maybe.
Yep.
Number 18 is Jared Goff. Everyone pretty much knows about Jared Goff. He didn't really play much his first year, didn't really have a good year. Everyone really gave up on him. And the next year, he had a great year. He was given Brandon Cooks. We had Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, one of the best offenses in football. Todd Gurley had the best year of his career at like almost 20 touchdowns. And they had a great year and made it to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they lost to the Patriots. And then the next year, this last year, he did not have a good season. Todd Gurley, I feel like he's one of these quarterbacks that sort of banks off of a running back, sort of like a Ryan Tannehill with the Titans. Todd Gurley's production went down, and look what happened to Jared Goff's touchdown-interception ratio in play. Everything just sort of dipped, and I just feel like he's just where he needs to be on this list because he just didn't play good last year.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. He definitely is a quarterback that feeds off his running back. So, and with the loss of Gurley, I could see him even declining even more from what he did last year.
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks too. He took a step back last year for sure.
Big steals.
Moving on, Number 17, we have Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben was injured last season, but he's coming back to a Steelers team that is a pretty good football team. Last year, they almost made the playoffs with Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So I think if he was healthy last year, they were a playoff team. And I think if he stays healthy this year, they're a playoff team too. You know, he's a veteran. He's been to the Super Bowl. He knows what it takes. I don't see the Steelers being that type of team this year. But if Big Ben plays like he can, I definitely think that he could lead them.
Yeah, based off of previous years, Big Ben, we all know Big Ben throws for a lot of yards. He always throws for almost the most yards in the NFL, a whole bunch of touchdowns. Now, Big Ben, he hasn't really played too much without AB. He only played a few games with just Juju. Now, maybe that's going to change the way, he runs because he never has really played without a really good receiver. Juju, he dropped off last year, which is understandable because of having the quarterback situation that he did. But now is Juju that number one receiver that, like we all thought he was? We don't know. So, I could see his production dipping quite easily. But I definitely could see the Steelers making the playoffs and, maybe winning a couple games. I don't see him being a Super Bowl team, but I could definitely see him winning some games and making the playoffs just based off of how good their defense is and the weapons that he has. Next quarterback on the list is the 16th quarterback is Josh Allen. I sort of the same situation for Josh Allen as some of the other quarterbacks. I don't really think he was given a great number one receiver. He's always sort of just had mediocre to – they're good receivers. They're average. They put up decent numbers. Cole Beasley and John Brown, they're okay, but – now he finally has that guy that he can go to on a third down that like when you don't when you need a play. He is a guy that he can go to, and with Stephon Diggs, I feel like that's going to bring his game to the next level. We have him in this list because stat-wise, his stats weren't very good. They were okay at best, but his stats weren't very good. I also feel like he was carried heavily by that defense. They never really put up a lot of points on offense. Defense sort of really just kept him in games. But I feel like his game could really upgrade with the addition of Stephon Diggs, and he could have a good year.
Yeah, like you said, they brought in Stephon Diggs. He's going to be their number one receiver now. Josh Allen's go-to guy. Josh Allen, he looks promising. At times, he looks very promising. He's a great arm talent. Well, he's a very strong arm, I should say. But he's still far from finished product. He really needs to polish his game up. But I think the sky's the limit for him.
And another thing that I sort of missed on that I forgot to say about was his rushing ability. You don't want to sell him short on that. That's very important. He rushes very well. He picks up a lot of key first downs that most quarterbacks can't. And he also has quite a few rushing touchdowns last year. So that's also a thing to think about.
Moving on, number 15, Matthew Stafford. You look at the Lions. Stafford's really one of the only lone bright spots on that team. He's actually not a bad quarterback at all. He doesn't have the worst targets in the world. He throws to Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones. So last year he was injured, but he played like a really good top-tier quarterback before his injury last year. So I wouldn't expect too much win-wise in the win column this year from the Lions, but I still think that you can expect Stafford to have at least decent play next year.
Yeah, I agree with everything that he just said. I feel like Stafford's stats should still be pretty good, but Stafford can't play defense team, and you can't expect Stafford to put up, a 500 season when his defense is just the way it is. It's just impossible. So, I think don't get me wrong. I feel like Stafford can still keep the Lions in games, keep a game close, but just based off of how the roster is built and how it is right now, there's no way that he could win all those games. So I feel like he could have a good statistical year, and he's a good quarterback in this league right now. Next quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. A lot of people are sort of sold on Ryan Tannehill. I like Ryan Tannehill. I think he's always been sort of like an average quarterback in the league. He's been serviceable. You can say he's a franchise quarterback when he played for the Dolphins. Took him to the playoffs, I think maybe once or twice, maybe at most, but never really did anything. Stat-wise, he was never bad, but never put up really big numbers. And clearly last year, he did his job. He stepped in and he took his team to the playoffs. And he's one of these other quarterbacks that completely is driven by the running back and defensive play. I mean, combined in the playoffs, he had like not even 300 passing yards. I mean, that's just in 3 games or 2 games. That's not good. That's terrible. So I don't feel like he can lead. If you're down, put it this way: if you're down by 20 points and you need it in the mid third quarter, fourth quarter, he's not going to give you that. He has to be up in a game and play like hit short routes and stuff like that. But nonetheless, he gets wins and he's won in the playoffs recently, so you can't shell him short.
Yeah, Tannehill, he's not one to put up big numbers. But like Devin said, he thrives off a good defense and a good running game, and that's exactly what he had last year with the Titans. But if they're ever down big in a game, like you said, Devin, it's going to be really hard for them to win. Like, it would be hard for them to play against, like, beat the Chiefs and compete with the Chiefs. Just as an example, because they're going to be putting up a lot of points. You look at the Titans, they have a hard – if they get down, they're a run team. And Tannehill isn't the guy to throw the ball around and look like an all-star quarterback. Yeah.
Yep.
Moving on, number 13, we have Tom Brady. Tom Brady, we all know he's with the Bucs now. This isn't the same Tom Brady that many of us know. He's very old now. I think he's 43. He's a game manager at this point in his career, but he's very good at what he does. He's still gonna, as long as the Bucs get him a line, that offense will flourish. But without a line, I think they'll have a very tough time because Brady's not going to be getting out of the pocket making plays. He needs to be able to sit in the pocket, hit the checkdowns, find the open receiver, and just make the smart play, which is what he's great at.
Yeah, I agree with what he said. Tom Brady, obviously, he's not a guy that's going to throw for a whole bunch of yards. He never really has in his career, and maybe early on he did, but in these last couple of years, he's always just been that guy that he makes the play at the right time, and I think he can do that for the Buccaneers. But like Kate said, if you don't have a line, these deep threats like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans aren't going to really make a difference if he doesn't have time to throw the ball and make good precise passes to them if he's getting pressured and the line's getting knocked back into him. So definitely I think that if the line is better, I mean that offense is perfectly built for him. I mean it is exactly what Tom Brady would want in an offense. So yeah, I think Tom Brady could have a good year this year. That's the end of the above average tier, right, Cade?
Yep.
That's the end of the above average tier. The start of the very good tier is Kyler Murray. Just based off of what Kyler Murray showed last year, he was doubted since day one, even going into high school, college. Every stage of his career, he's been doubted just because of his height. Said that he's just a running quarterback. And he proved everyone wrong last year without many weapons whatsoever. A terrible offensive line, one of the worst. No weapons really whatsoever besides Larry Fitzgerald and maybe Christian Kirk. And just completely proved everyone wrong. Just went out there and balled out and put up good numbers. He won some really good football games and kept it close with good teams. So I think Kyler Murray, the ceiling is just so high for him. I mean, now with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, he can get people in the draft. I mean, this can be a really, really good quarterback in the league. I think he could be a top 5 quarterback at a certain point in his career.
Yeah, last year, like you said, Murray, he proved everyone wrong. He showed that he has the arm ability. This year, he brought in the Cardinals brought in Nuke Hopkins in the draft. I think that they should definitely be looking to build up that offensive line. Murray's one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league, but at the same time, he was also sacked. I think it was something like 48 times last year, which is you can't expect your rookie quarterback, well now sophomore quarterback, to put up very good numbers and stuff with a terrible line, but Kyler Murray did. So if you can just imagine him with a good line, I just think that the sky's the limit. He has unlimited potential.
Me too.
Moving to the next player, we have Matt Ryan at number 11. Matt Ryan, he's been around the league for a long time now. He's going to throw for a lot of yards. He loves throwing to Julio Jones. That's his main man. But I'm not sure. I like him as a quarterback, but I think he still needs to prove more in the playoffs. They brought in Todd Gurley, which would definitely help him, but I still think he's still a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I still think that he's in this very good tier list for a reason. He puts up the numbers, but I just think that he really needs to win games and needs to avoid regressing this season.
Yeah, I agree with what Cade said, but Matt Ryan, like he the way that I look at Matt Ryan is people, the win-loss column can be deceiving in ways like people look at the win-loss column with certain quarterbacks and they're completely carried, like Jimmy Garoppolo and Ryan Tannehill, and they'll say, well, they got this X amount of wins. And then some people will say, this guy lost this amount of games when they had a terrible team. Like Kyler Murray only won 6 games, which you can't put that on people because that's not true. You can only do so much with what's within you. So that's how I feel about Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan does what he can with that offense that he's given. He has a great offense, and he puts up numbers and scores points. That defense is horrendous. There's injuries all over the field last year. The last 2 years, Deion Jones is injured. KZ, the safety, I forget who the other safety is. Desmond Trufant was injured. There's just people banged up everywhere, and without a defense, you can't win. You can't win a big game. Like you gotta have a solid team. And there's reasons why we put him in this tier. He just really always goes out and performs and puts up the numbers to be in a tier like this. So that's why we put him in this tier.
Yeah, and like you said, Devin, the win-loss column, it is deceiving a lot of the times. Just like he's a very good example of it. Matt Stafford's a good example of it. But then you also look at Garoppolo. We have him in this very good tier list. He's actually number 10.
Number 10 is Jimmy G. That's the one that I just said about. Jimmy G, I would love to say, he's like this system quarterback that's what I sort of look at him as, a system quarterback that, just sort of feeds off of the team. And don't get me wrong, he's been given an amazing team that so far based off of his career. But we can't sell this guy short. He made it to the Super Bowl, and he competed in the Super Bowl and almost won. So, and even with the Patriots, his win-loss column, he only has a few losses in his career. So this guy, he's a winner. That's a fact. He's a winner. And even if he has a good team, and, like I said, the win-loss column is deceiving, but I still think Jimmy Garoppolo is a very good quarterback. I think he's serviceable to a team. Now, if you put him on a team like the Cardinals, who would I rather have, Kyler Murray or Jimmy Garoppolo? I'd take Kyler Murray because he's more versatile and can, pursue it or do better in that offense. But Jimmy Garoppolo, with the team that he's at right now, and that's what we're focused on, he does amazing, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. People can hate on him, say he's a system quarterback, but I think he's more than that. His stats show he almost had 4,000 passing yards. He had a really good touchdown interception ratio. So I think that, like you said, with the team that he has, we're not looking at him. He's not on the Lions. He's not on a low-tier team. He does great with what he's at now. He took his team to the Super Bowl and almost beat the powerhouse Chiefs. So I think that Garoppolo is a good quarterback, and he's rightfully at the number 10 where we have him ranked.
I agree.
Number 9, we have Kirk Cousins. Cousins, he's a good quarterback, but with the loss of Diggs, I think that he really needs to step up his play this year. He can't just rely on his receivers. I think that the Vikings need to go out and get another receiver to pair alongside Thielen. But we're really going to see this season what kind of quarterback Kirk Cousins is, because he's definitely going to have to step up and make some more plays for this team. Last year, he had 26 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions, which is great. So we'll see what type of numbers he puts up this year.
Yeah, I agree with what Cade said. Last year, at one point in his middle, I forget if it was middle of the season, beginning, but he was an MVP candidate. He really did have good stats last year. He won games also. Now, did he have really good receivers? Yes, he did. He had Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. And like Cade said, it's going to be a really good test next year to see if he'll, be able to flourish in the offense without him. And that's going to show what Kirk Cousins really is as a player. But nonetheless, last season is what we're basing it off of. And he had a good year, good statistical year. And he also took his team to the playoffs. and won a game against the Saints, which is a very big win. So I think that rightfully so where he should be. Next person on the list is Dak Prescott. I'm a Cowboys fan. I try to be as mostly unbiased as I could. This is where I really believe Dak sits on the QB list. Most of the reason why I have Dak there is he's just a winner in general. Now, last season, did he make the playoffs? No, he didn't. But in general, the win-loss column, it's one of the best in the NFL. It's top 5 in win-loss ratio, which is very important. He has a playoff win, which is also very good. He didn't make the playoffs last year, but I think the majority of it, I blame most of it on Jason Garrett. It doesn't make sense that, Dak put up 33 touchdowns, had like 4 rushing touchdowns, and, the offense didn't do good in general. And I blame it on majority of it on Jason Garrett. So I'm hoping that with the addition of Mike McCarthy as the new head coach, I hope that Dak flourishes in that offense. And I think that he will. I mean, he's always been a natural born leader, great off the field, on the field quarterback. And I think that Dak deserves the spot that he's at.
Yeah, Dak, he is a winner. He's a great leader. He has all the good quality traits that you're looking for in a quarterback. Last year, the Cowboys had one of the best offenses in the league. And Dak, the numbers show he had a great year last year. Statistically wise, the win-loss column wasn't there. But like Devin said, hopefully with a new head coach, Prescott can flourish. But I still think that if he can have a good push in the playoffs this year, maybe win a game or two this year, I think that he shoots up this QB ranking board.
Me too. This is yours, Cade.
Yeah, 7 we have Wentz. I think Wentz and Dak, they're almost interchangeable, but based off of last season, Wentz made the playoffs. He did arguably, you can say he did more with less. But he's never won a playoff game in his career. So and just like Dak, I think that if he can make a playoff push this year, he shoots up this board. He's had an MVP caliber season in his past. So, and I really do think that he can come back up to that type of play. But I think that the Eagles need to get him more weapons around him. The whole receiving core is injury prone. Their top 2 receivers, Jeffrey and Jackson, injury prone, but he does have 2 very good tight ends to throw too. So I would expect him to have a really good season this year if everyone can stay healthy.
Yeah. What sets me apart from Dak and Wentz, and as hard as it is for me to do it because I've always defended Dak over Wentz, this last season really hurt me that Dak didn't make the playoffs. If Dak makes the playoffs last year, I still stand on Dak that he's a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, but there's no excuse. I mean, obviously, there's an excuse. Dak had a bad coach, but you can't take anything away from Carson Wentz. He was playing with receivers that people didn't even know the names of, and he literally went out there, balled out. And even though it wasn't against some of the best teams, he went out there, won the games that he needed to, beat the Cowboys late in the season when the Cowboys were healthy, and took his team to the playoffs. And that's all that matters. And they probably would have won a playoff game if Carson Wentz stays healthy in that game. So I think that Carson Wentz is a great quarterback. Overall, when you look at Carson Wentz, if the injuries aren't there, Carson Wentz is a freak. I mean, he's 6'5". He's got a tremendous arm talent, just a great prospect in general. If you give him some good receivers that aren't aging, that aren't, decreasing and, that aren't injury prone, you give him a true number 1 receiver, I'm telling you, like, he's going to jump up in the board and he's going to have a great year.
Yeah.
6th, we have Aaron Rodgers. Me and Cade were sort of torn with Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. Based off of last season, we put Drew Brees above him. With the games that Drew Brees played better in our opinion. So that's why we have Drew Brees above him. But nonetheless, Aaron Rodgers has always been a great quarterback in the league. I feel like he definitely got worse with the new head coach. When they lost Mike McCarthy, I felt like he definitely got worse. It turned into more of a running team than what Rodgers was used to. He's usually used to having the ball in his hand, making audibles like with what he wants. And I feel like that sort of got taken away from him, and that's why I feel like his stats sort of declined. But he still made the playoffs, still had a great record. did his job, and I feel like the defense needs to be better, and it's not just him. Aaron Rodgers is getting older. They need to surround him with more weapons so that he can flourish in that offense. So I don't blame a lot of it on Rodgers. He made the playoffs. He had a good statistical year. That's why we have him ranked 6th.
Yeah, as far as statistics go, you could say Rodgers had a down year for his standards, but he still put up amazing, great numbers as a quarterback. 4,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, so 4 interceptions only. Like, what more can you look for from your veteran quarterback? But he had a great record last year too. But I think that for the Packers as a team as a whole, that they need to surround him with more weapons. Offensively, they need to get him people to throw to besides Adams. And they need to get defensive help. Rodgers can't win games on both sides of the ball. He can only do so much on offense.
I agree.
Number 5, we have Brees. Brees might be going into his last season. It's a possibility. So we'll see. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders, but Brees, he's a great quarterback. He's always been a great quarterback. They call him Breezes for a reason. He's going to lead the Saints again. They're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be Super Bowl contenders. As long as he stays healthy, it wouldn't be a shock if they're Super Bowl champions next year.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they definitely could make a deep playoff run. Alvin Kamara was injured last year. They had a lot of key injuries last year, clearly when Brees was injured. And I feel like it was more of a fluke than anything in the playoffs when they lost to the Vikings. They were my pick for the NFC last year. I felt like it was their year to win. Give Brees his last, gasp for a Super Bowl, and then he can retire. But it wasn't that case. And I feel like this year it could be the year where he bounces back and he gives it to the Saints before he retires. So I feel like Drew Brees, he's just been a great quarterback his whole career, and he put up good numbers last year when he was healthy. So I think that's why we have him ranked 5th. 4th is Deshaun Watson. I just think Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback. You can say all you want, he has DeAndre Hopkins. Besides DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson has nothing. You can say, Kenny Stills, he's average. Will Fuller, he's average. That line is horrendous. It's completely horrendous. It's been, terrible for the last couple years that he's been there. I feel like, they're definitely stepping in the wrong direction, trading away his best receiver. But get Deshaun Watson a better line and get him, maybe another receiver in this draft and see what he can do. I think he still can easily make a playoff run this year. It's going to be hard. I feel like it could be hard, but with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, I feel like he can do it.
Yeah, last year in the playoffs, Watson showed that just how great he is. He was the spark behind that huge comeback against the Bills. And like Devin said, I think that even though they lost Hopkins and with the line that they have, I still think with Watson as a quarterback, you have a shot to make the playoffs. He's just that good. So much potential there. And with the right weapons, that team is going to be red hot.
Yep.
And by the way, I don't know if we said this or not, but we're in the elite tier now with Rodgers to Watson and this next player. Might be a little controversial. Our number 3 player. We have Lamar Jackson as the 3rd quarterback. Last year, obviously, amazing season, MVP. But I think that me and Devin both think that we need to see more. He let us down big time in the playoffs last year, but you still can't take away what he accomplished in the regular season. He was just a freak of nature last year. But if he can show this year that he can win the big time games and win the playoff games, make a push in the playoffs, I think that you have an argument there that he's the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah. In the regular season, he obviously was the MVP. He had the best stats out of any quarterback, the most electric. There's never been a quarterback that's seen like this before besides Mike Vick maybe. This guy is very special. Can run just like, one of the best runners in the NFL history. He's also a good passer. So, obviously he's a great quarterback. But the reason why, I mean, Kate hit on it already, but the reason why we don't put him above Russell Wilson, he just hasn't won playoff games, and that's just it. I mean, last year, his first year, he lost in the playoffs. Were we really expecting Lamar Jackson, his rookie season, go out there and win? I mean, some people did, but I can understand that. But last season, to have that kind of a season and play against a 9-7 team, that's got to be a win, not only for your team but for your fan base. I mean, you can't. That's sort of like you can't really lose to a team like that. And you can say all you want about the regular season, but I would take Ryan Tannehill in the playoffs over Lamar Jackson in the regular season. The only time that it matters, I'd rather, you've seen it last year, a 9-7 team can make it through the playoffs just as good as any other team. So the only thing that matters is the playoffs. And so far, Lamar Jackson has not showed in the playoffs that he can win. So we need to see that out of him. But nonetheless, he's an amazing talent and quarterback. Number 2 is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, his whole career, he's just been amazing. He has the experience to be, that's why we have him ranked so high. Part of the reason why is because he's so experienced. He's been to playoff games multiple times, NFC championships. He's been to Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl. He's played on great teams. He knows what it takes to win games mostly. And he had a great year last year. He was up for the MVP until Lamar, started to, get really hot. But before it was Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson, he won a playoff game last year. He did a good job. I feel like he didn't really have the most weapons around him. He had a good offense, but if he was put on one of these teams like maybe the Ravens or a really good team like the Saints, he would win a Super Bowl easy in my opinion. So I think that Russell Wilson is deserving of that second spot.
Yeah, I think you hit it perfectly there. Wilson, he knows what it takes to win. When he's on the field, he's an MVP caliber player. He's gonna go out there. He's a playmaker, and he's gonna win ball games for you. So I think that the reason we have him above Jackson, like we said, is that he knows what it takes to win games. Like he's been to Super Bowls. He's won a Super Bowl. He's gonna be the MVP type caliber player every single game, and he doesn't let down.
I agree.
And finally, not a big surprise here, number 1 rated quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl champion. Honestly, Mahomes, I think that there's actually a pretty big gap. I don't know what you think, Devin, but I think there's a pretty big gap between Mahomes and Wilson. He's just that good. Not to take away from any of the other quarterbacks, but Mahomes is just a different breed. He's going to make the huge plays. Like, it's just insane watching games what he can do.
It just showed, and when he played the Texans, when they were down by 28 points, he came back literally in minutes. He put up scores like it was just so amazing just to see that. I mean, they were so stunned when he did it, and he's the only quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. He's the only quarterback in the NFL that could have did that. No other quarterback's coming back from that deficit. That's all Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and he's got that clutch factor. There's not many quarterbacks in the whole NFL that have it like Patrick Mahomes. He wins games, and if it wasn't for his rookie season, it was his his first season he played, his second season. If it wasn't for that stupid penalty where the defensive end Frank Clark, I think it was, that jumped in the neutral zone, he wins against the Patriots because he played better than Tom Brady in that game, and he goes and wins the Super Bowl. In my opinion, beats the Rams. So he should honestly right now he should have 2 Super Bowls under his belt, and it just shows. In 2 seasons. It just shows. He could, in my opinion, I'm telling you right now, and you can mark my words on this, if Patrick Mahomes stays healthy, I could see him being top 5 quarterback of all time quite easily. I could see him winning multiple Super Bowls in this league, especially if you put him on one of the more average teams. That's a Super Bowl contending team just with him on the team. So that's what sets him apart from all the other quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on what I said, the gap between Mahomes and the other quarterbacks? I like how I said, I think that there's a big gap.
If you're going to talk, the only other quarterback that you can compare, in my opinion, to Patrick Mahomes is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, he sort of has the same thing. He comes back from games, he makes the plays, but Patrick Mahomes is on another level. He's on another level from Russell Wilson, and he's on a couple levels higher than any other quarterback in the NFL. Like, he is just different. He's a different player, and he's just – I don't know how to explain it. the defense isn't even that great of a defense. It wasn't even a top 10 defense, and he went and won a Super Bowl. Like, that just shows it right there.
Mm. All right, so that's all we got here for today. Those are our NFL QB rankings and tiers. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you agree, disagree. Like and subscribe. See you later.
See you later. Peace.